Welcome to Shine a Light once again with yours, truly, Kenita McCarthy. And today on the show we have the Honorable Cynthia Mother Pratt. She's well known around the Bahamas, and now she is about to launch her new movie, An Ordinary Woman from the Heart of the Inner City. And now I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself. The Bahamas is already well aware of who she is, but now I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself.
Well, it's an honor for me to be on your show today. Of course, I believe that even the children knows I'm Mother Pratt. And I'm delighted to be a part of a country called the Bahamas and to sell my story to encourage, motivate, uplift the downtrodden. And that's what I'm about. I'm about service, but I'm also about inspiration, inspiring people that they can accomplish, they can achieve. And don't let anybody tell them they can't make it because they can.
Okay, so we're just going to get right into it. I know that one of the graces that God has given you is the ability to create ordinary men into great leaders. And my first question would be, what do you define as a leader?
Look, I believe a leader is one, first of all, one with passion to serve, and one with compassion, because you must have it within you to reach out and go the extra mile to help a young man or a young woman who you can see the gift in them, but they can't see it in themselves. And so you want to go the extra mile to try and reach them because you can see they're going down the wrong path and they're really not exercising the gifts and the talents that God has given them. But then there's another side of that. That same young man will come from a family that's really not into anything. And so he feels there's no hope. And someone must come along and show him there is hope, because I came from similar conditions. And I'm striving to be the best that I can be. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm better than where I used to be. And so I want to sell into that young man that, listen, yes, mama wasn't all she could be, or you're ashamed of your mommy, because sometimes we're ashamed of our parents. And we don't want other kids to know that's my mommy or that's my daddy. Well, I used to be in that position sometimes. My mom and dad were illiterate. My father was an alcoholic. And there were times when there were fights and there were carrying on. And I was a child. And I often said to myself, when I grow up, I will never have this in my home. And that stayed with me. And so I'm saying a great leader would be one who you have to see who you're leading and what you're leading and go out and try to bring them along. Because a leader must lead, but you must know who you're leading. And so there are young men and young women who might be abused now. But if you dig into them, you'll find out that there are young women and young men who have much to offer to this country, but nobody never told them that.
That is excellent.
Let me just add also is that a leader must first recognize that he or she is a servant of the people. Leaders are servants of the people, not the people are their servants. So that is something, because the Bible says that if you want to be great, you must first become a leader. And so leaders do some of the most ordinary things. Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. And so I believe in being a good leader, I must have the mind, the heart, and the will to serve my people. That is so important. Once you do that, the people then have confidence in you because they know that you do care about them and you're not just here for the vote or you're not just here to get something from it, you're here to give. That's what leaders do. Leaders give.
Another question I want to ask you, with the youths, with a lot of troubled youths that you deal with, a lot of their credibility is compromised. And how do you go about helping them restore their credibility?
There are a number of particularly young women who have messed up as children at a very young age. And I've started working with them by showing them that they have the ability to do many other things. But one of the things I instill in them is that we are not here to talk about the babies. Like a young man, I'm not here to talk about your past. I'm here to talk about your future. Where is it you're going? Where do you want to go? Then I start showing them some opportunities that's available to them. Now, I can take you there. I can open the door, but you must go through the door. And so, young women in particular, I started computer classes when in 1997, my first term in office. These were young mothers who couldn't read, couldn't write. But I had a young man, Sidon Clare, who's now part of Her Majesty's Prison. He's second in command of the senior officer there. He came, he and another teacher called Miss Wilmot. They had classes for these young women. At the first group was about 100 young women. 18 weeks. They taught them computers, Word, Excel, and I'm telling you, when those girls realized that they had something to offer, they were all excited. They were able to get jobs because they knew the computer. They never forgot that. They suddenly realized that I am somebody. Water under the bridge, that's the babies. The children, that's water under the bridge. We're not talking about that. We're talking about where we're going. I don't want to talk about that. I'm not interested in your past. I am concerned about your future. That is how you overcome these things, because a lot of them feel as though they're finished. Nobody sees anything in them because they messed up. But listen, many of us messed up, you know. We just didn't get caught. We were lucky enough to get by, but we didn't get caught. So it is our place to give back to those people who messed up, got caught, and feel like it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. Let's start over afresh, and let's get it going, because you can achieve whatever you want to achieve if you want it bad enough. And that's what I'm doing.
Excellent. So another thing, how do you help young men and young women whose lives that you have impacted to deal with opposition and getting to their destiny?
The thing about it is this: there are always the naysayers. There are always the distractors. There are always the critics. Okay? Anytime you're about to do good, evil is present. Just remember that. One of the things I've said to a number of young men, people in the prison, and people will always from time to time throw it in their face that they're, you know, prison, or jailbird, that kind of thing. I said, listen, you must build a resistance of thick skin, because there will always be those who go down into the ocean with snorkels and dig up your past. Even though you're talking about 30 years later, where you're now a new person, you're serving this country with dignity and with respect, but there will always be those who go to talk about, oh, you know, 20 years ago he went to prison. Yes. So did Joseph. Joseph went to prison too, and Joseph became Prime Minister of Egypt. Okay, in the Bible. So I'm saying to them, you don't dwell on the critics. Look above that and beyond, because you know where you're going. I had the opportunity to go to Jacksonville with the ambassador to the U.S., John Root. He took me to the prison to speak to the inmates when I was Minister of National Security. When I got there, The prison budget was larger than our national budget. They brought out about 200 plus men for me to address. And I started talking about Joseph and how Joseph went to prison but became the prime minister by way of the prison. In essence, I was saying to them, this is only a stepping stone to where you can arrive to. John Rood said he never forgot that message. He speaks about that all the time because he has never heard it in that way. There are some of us who continue to pull us down, like the black crab syndrome, I call it. You're trying to emerge and you're trying to live right, and there will always be the critics. But you must rise up above that and know that, listen, I'm trying to get to point B now. You're still talking about point A. That is behind me. Pull up your bootstraps and let's go. You have a country to build. That's what I instill in them. And they often overcome the negatives. I said, listen, what is in you that this country needs? Think about that. What is in you? Then they start to think about it. I'm a good artist. I'm good with my hands. I can put things together. You will need it. I'm a good plumber. You will need it. I'm a good carpenter. You are needed. This country needs carpenter. Right now, we have to import foreigners to come to do this kind of work that you have the skill to do. Okay? And so I said to them, this is a new day for you. Know that you are somebody. Hold your head high. Step forward. And listen, don't answer them. One of the things I've said to them, I said, you can do one of two things. Either you prove them right or you prove them wrong. They call you names. If you do what they say, then you're proving them right. But when you do what they didn't say, you prove them wrong. That's what we need in this country. We need to know that in spite of the pitfalls, we got to pull up our bootstraps, start all over again. The song says it's going to be rough, but we are going to make it. That's what I instill in them.
So another question I have. When you are developing young troubled teens, do you ever come across anyone that you see no hope in?
There are some that you would have wished that you could have gotten to them much earlier. I would hate to think that there is no hope, because I've said to young men who people have said, you're no good, you'll never amount to anything. But that young man knows, as I said earlier, he's 95% no good. The hope is in the 5%, not the 95, the 5%. Let's work on the 5%. Spend time with him. Bring him out of an environment into another environment and show him what's good in him. Then he suddenly realized that somebody has some confidence in him. When I was teaching at CC Sweden, we had some youths who were really, I won't say they were terrible, but they were problem kids, I'd say that. The principal said to me, Pratt, you're going to have to help us with it. My classes were males. I wanted all the males. I'm not good much with females, because the females didn't have that kind of problems. And so I would have what they call the rogues. But by the time I was finished with them, they started to realize that somebody cared for them. Somebody saw something in them that was productive. I went to some of the homes to see where they came from, because you must understand the environment some of them are coming from. Some of these young boys, they had to work to help mama pay the rent. They were just getting home at midnight. They got to be to school for 9 o'clock in the morning, but they were packing boys in the food store and things like that. And so here they felt as though they were taking on a man's job when in fact they couldn't enjoy life as a young boy. So they were troubled and they started to act out. Teachers called them rude and no manners and what have you. But when I started to work with them, they then saw that, I am somebody. And I would look at their attire. Notice sometimes they had one uniform. I would supply uniforms for them.
So you would say that a lot of the troubled youth have identity issues?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because they feel that they are nobody. Mm-hmm. Because everybody tells them that they're nobody. Mm-hmm. And so they then felt as though they were less than anyone, and then people often attach that to not being able to learn.
So one of the things that you have to do is you have them to understand their identity.
Self-esteem. Mm-hmm. I had to work on self-esteem. Mm-hmm. The whole school, not just these troubled boys. Mm-hmm. Because the whole school had a self-esteem problem. Because people nickname it as the big dollhouse. Don't forget that. Mm-hmm. And that stayed with them and made them feel as though they were less than any other kid from any other school. Mm-hmm. So we had to change a whole lot of things. And one of the things that I changed was the logo. Mm-hmm. And I placed there, Cobra Pride is still alive. And then I changed their uniforms. Because I was teaching a lot of the physical education classes. Mm-hmm. And so they started to look different. Mm-hmm. And so whenever we arrived at the stadium, the school started, that's not Cece coming there. Yes, because the uniforms were different. Their attitude had changed because they suddenly realized that they were somebody. I'm just as good as the other fella. And that was one of the reasons why the kids then started to see things in another light. I can achieve. And many of these young boys were always absent in school, and their attendance record then started to improve. They were coming to school every day, and then on weekends, my husband would cook. He'd cook a big pot of food that I would have them meet me at school on Saturdays, and they would come in large numbers, and I would make sure and notice, now this one is a good artist. This one, I saw where their gift was, their talent was, and I would have them paint the schools and put little signs and logos. Suddenly, they felt as though they were achieving something. They were serving a purpose. That's what they did in the school, and after a while, their attendance became perfect attendance until the principal called me to ask me, what have I done to these students? They did a complete turnaround. No more problems from some of these boys because I told them, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it. I will get the scholarships for you.
Do you think with the increase in violence in our country recently, do you think it is because a lot of the youth is getting their identities from movies and TV shows?
I think that has something to do with it. But I think the family structure is the key. Mm-hmm. You see, the family is the foundation. Mm-hmm. And if the foundation be destroyed, the Bible says, what can the righteous do? In other words, in the home, whatever is taught in the home, regardless to what else is out there, that seed has been sown in that child from young. Manners, respect, good morning, good evening, excuse me, that never changed. These things are grounded and rooted in the family. That's the foundation. Now, what has happened is there's very little foundation because there are very little homes. Most of them are houses, they're not homes. And so the children is turning to the television because there's nothing being taught in the home. You see? While at the same time you might have a few of them drift, that seed is sown. The Bible says they will go but they'll return. Train up a child in the way it should go, and when it's old, it will not depart, it will return back. There are some kids who are weak in terms of peer pressure. They would end up drifting, but inside, sooner or later, you hear them say, I wasn't raised this way. I wasn't brought up like this, because the seed has been sown. And so I think in a lot of cases, the foundation has been corroded. And so the young people are coming up today. They know nothing about God. They've never been to church because no parents never been to church. They don't have any kind of respect for anybody because they don't know what, when good morning, good evening, excuse me, that was never taught to them. That's where we've gone wrong. And that is why you find they don't respect the church and God because they've never been taught that. Let me just say this. When I was in Urban Renewal, there were a group of boys who were suspended. The teacher sent a letter to the parents, which the parents never received. So the parents didn't know that the child was suspended. They would take a change of clothing in their bags and they leave home in uniform and they would change to some friend house somewhere and they would go and break into homes in Garden Hills. We caught a number of them, and because the parents never knew the child was suspended and the teacher didn't know that the parents didn't know, they were all fooled for a long time until they got into trouble. At that time, we had Officer Simmons and Nancy Miller, who was a part of Urban Renewal right around the corner. We decided we will start a school suspension program. That's where the school suspension program started. And so we wrote to schools to let them know whenever children are suspended, they are to come to us. And they would spend their suspension with us. Then they returned to school with letters from us. They had to come to church. They were attending my church right around the corner. And so whether they were suspended for a week, that had to happen, 2 weeks, that had to happen. And it was so good that the private schools then started to send the children here as well. That's where the school suspension program started. Those same kids made a complete turnaround. All they needed was a foundation. That was the foundation. And the principal said, what a change when those children returned. Nancy Miller and Officer Robert Simmons. Those are the two people who worked with me at the Urban Renewal right here at the church on Watling Street. That's where it all began.
Yeah, like I know you said at your book launch, you said that you want your home turned into a museum.
Yes.
Yes. How do you feel? I want to know your thoughts in a movie being created about you. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts? I mean, with expression, I mean, how do you feel?
I'm grateful to God, first of all, for what God is doing, because this is all God. Mm-hmm. As you can see, I live in the inner city. Mm-hmm. I've been here since 1973. Mm-hmm. I've never lived anywhere other than the inner city, and I can name the streets that I lived on. Mm-hmm. There are masses of children in the inner city who feel there is no hope. We might as well get over. We might as well steal. We might as well prostitute. We might as well, you name it, to get over. My message to them is that you can be in the inner city, you don't have to be out of the inner city. Let's bring change. Let's bring change. I am praying to God, and I've asked the Lord, and He will do it for me, that this house, where all the history has been recorded, must remain. To give the masses hope that the same God who raised up this girl from 6th Street, Poinciana Avenue, is the same God today but raised them up, regardless of what condition they're in right now. That is why I want all of the awards in the house, and I don't know if you've seen them yet, but I've been winning awards from I was 11 years old. I've had hundreds of awards, athletic awards. Today, the children need to know there is hope for them. That's why I am adamant about this. The children who come by here, some of these children, poor things, have to bring up themselves. Mama has to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Not that they're delinquent. but it's because of the times are hard. And so in the neighborhood, you try your best to see if you can watch over some of them and help the parents. I believe because someone took time out with me, I must take time out with someone else's child. Because I could have gotten into problems where I could have been in prison. Because persons helped me, counsel me, talk to me. That's why I have to do it. You see, parents can't be with their children 24 hours a day. That's why they depend on others who can say a kind word to them and lead them in the right path and not abuse them. Discipline them, but not abuse them. And so that is why I'm excited about this becoming a museum so that the children can come. After I've gone on to be with the Lord, they can come and know that there was a woman who actually lived here. There's a man who's gone on to be with the Lord, Amos Ferguson, just around the corner. That man died an icon. How many children in this area knows that? The Bahamas, very few knows that. Right in the inner city. And so I'm saying these places, that's only a little shack around the corner, that could be restored. And memories can be made to inspire the little boy who feels, well, I can only draw. But that might be your future, a good future. So don't tell him he's dumb because he can't spell or he can. You don't know. That's what I'm saying. And that's why we must motivate and encourage the masses who are down there. That's how we're going to have a better country.
So, what has your book tour been like?
The book tour begins in January, where we're going on to North Carolina at the university where I attended. And they are having a day there for myself, and I thank God for it. The mayor of the Raleigh will be there. The NAACP will be there. Of course, faculty, lecturers who have been there during my time, some of them are still alive, they will be there, and of course the student body. And I'm so encouraged by this because there are some Bahamians who enrolled there right now, and I would be able to interact with them, talk to them. And then, of course, there's a university, Shore University, that's not far, where a number of Bahamian students are there as well. So I will be in the Raleigh area for about 4 days, and then I go on to San Antonio, where I would be addressing a number of universities in San Antonio. And they are bringing together, I think, 5 to 7 of them, universities that is, so that I can address the body, talk about my life, and of course, do some book signing, and of course, they will purchase a number of books for their library. So I'm excited by this because what it has done also, it has encouraged many other Bahamians to write. You know, many Bahamians were contemplating writing, but they never did. They have a story to tell too. And so I would like to see more Bahamians write because we don't know how far it will get. You know, we don't know. And so I want to do whatever I can to help to motivate and encourage the masses. Not just in the Bahamas, but around the world. Because this is global now. And what it has done, it has put the Bahamas at a level whereby a motion picture will be aired. We give God thanks for that.
Excellent. Mother Pratt, so where the viewers can find the book, where they can find a copy of the book?
The books are now at Logos in Harbor Bay. They'll be able to purchase it there, and I'm told that they will get some to other bookstores, but presently that's where they are right now.
Okay, another question I'd like to ask, but everybody wants to know, who haven't known us yet. Where did the name Mother arise from?
The name Mother actually was given to me in Belize, Central America, not in the Bahamas. We were representing the Bahamas in a softball game championship. There was a young girl on the team. She was only 14 years old. She was playing shortstop, excellent player.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the third baseman.
Mm-hmm.
But she had an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other girls couldn't seem to reach her.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss McCarthy back then, I was a little rough now, you know. I was no easy take here. And so I decided that I will approach the young child. I said, come here, dear. I need to say something to you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you see what you're wearing across your chest?
Mm-hmm.
That's the Bahamas. We represent a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, they can't seem to reach you. So I will have to tell you, if you don't straighten up, I will have to give you a couple. You understand? And
a couple hugs?
yeah, no. I will have
a couple
to,
kisses?
No. I had to give her one or two. You understand? I said, so you must straighten up. So she said, she went to the coach and said that I threatened her. So the coach asked her, what did Cynthia say? She said that she'll hit me if I didn't straighten. He said, well, if she told you that, that's what she meant.
Mm-hmm.
So she came back. She said, well, you must be my mother. I said, I'm the mother, and there's no other. I didn't know that would leave in Belize, Central America. That came home to the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
This was only a little incident, something we shared among us. When I got home, by the time I got to school, the students were saying, Mother Pratt. Now, of course, I'm offended, you know, because I'm no mother here. I am Mistress Pratt, and I'm all upset now. But I realized that it was gone. I couldn't control it anymore. But I knew now that it was divine. It was God that was changing my name because He had plans for my life.
Yes.
You see? And I'm all bent out of shape now. You must understand this thing here, because I want to give you one or two. You understand?
1 or 2 hugs.
So that, you know, we laugh about it now because we can see now what it was all about. That child was only a vessel being used for what God was going to do with me later on. That's all that was about.
I never knew that's what a name came. Thanks again. This is Shine a Light with Kenita McCarthy with the Honorable Mother Cynthia Pratt. And we will not give you two.
No.